aspiring customs brokers. Today we have part 3 of our series that you've been following along with. I'm passing the customs broker exam, and today we're specifically going to talk about managing your time to ensure that you are prepared when it comes time to take the exam. So here's just a quick chart that I'm going to use for demonstration, and this isn't necessarily what I recommend for your study time, but it's a good example. I don't remember exactly where I got this. It may have been a course I took or somebody passed it along to me. But at any rate, a lot of people recommend that you spend between 150 and 180 hours of study time to make sure that you're prepared for the exam. Now, what I don't want you to do is get hung up on that total number of hours studied. The thing I want to stress is that it's important to have a plan so that you set aside enough time on a daily basis to be prepared. And what this chart does a great job of demonstrating is how the longer you wait to start studying, the more taxing it is on a daily basis to get through all of the material so that you're ready for the exam. Okay, so this is just an example, like 12-week study plan, weekdays 2 hours per day, weekends 4 hours per day, gives you 180 hours. Okay, if you go down to an 8-week study plan, 3 hours per day on the weekdays, 7 hours on Saturday and Sunday, gives you 176 hours. And then a 6-week study plan, obviously you have to spend more hours per day to get all of your time in. Okay, so what I want you to take away from this is the longer you wait to start studying, the more taxing it is on a daily basis. Okay, my recommendation as far as how much you need to study is study as much as you need to. Okay, I know that's general, but some people are going to require more time. Some people will take less time. It has nothing to do with how smart you are or anything like that. It's just some concepts people pick up quicker than others. Okay, and what you want to do is make sure you understand those concepts before you move on. All right, and that's one of the most important things for you to understand is make sure that you're comfortable with the information you covered before you start learning a new section. If you don't, things are just going to get more confusing. And you've probably experienced this at some point in your life. Maybe in school you were taking a class and you didn't understand something and the rest of the class moved on to concepts that built upon that, and you just started getting more and more lost. And it wasn't until you went back and understood the core concept that the rest of it started to make sense. The same thing is going to happen here while you're preparing for the exam. So if you've been following along our series here, in part 2 we discussed a method to structure your study efforts. Based on past exams, you can identify where questions are going to come from, and that's where you're going to focus your time to study. For example, you're learning the entry process, so you're in part 141 of the regulations. Make sure you understand the entry process and you're getting all of your practice questions right before you move on to the next concept, for example, valuation. If you don't, you're just going to confuse multiple topics instead of having an understanding of one. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's look at a sample schedule that I think is a little more realistic than the one we reviewed at the beginning. So for a 12-week schedule, what I would do is on weeks 1 through 9, I would take Sunday, a leisurely 2 hours, take the section that you're going to focus on from your spreadsheet that you put together in part 2. Read the regulations for that section, take notes. I've said it before, handwrite your notes. You're going to remember things better. Your brain makes a better connection with the physical act of writing. So handwrite some notes and review the regulations in the section you're covering and try to understand it. And then Monday, take 20 practice sections from what you just covered on Sunday and time yourself 3 minutes a question and go through and answer them. Look up the ones you missed and make sure you understand it. And then Tuesday, set aside 2 hours, review the questions from Monday and the information up till now to make sure that you have a good grasp on it. Then Wednesday, do another set of practice questions in the same section. Thursday, review everything you covered up till now. Make sure it all makes sense, that you understand the questions you missed on Wednesday. And then what I recommend on Friday is to give yourself a mini test in each section. So another 20 questions or so on the material you covered. And this is kind of like your check at the end of the week to make sure you understand everything that you covered. If you do understand it, then these 20 questions on Friday should be much easier, and you should get most of them right within the allotted time. As long as that goes well, then you'll know you're ready to move on to the next section, and follow that process for the weeks 1 through 9. And then your last couple of weeks, it's follow the same process, but add in some study time on Saturdays. What I recommend is start taking full-length practice exams. So just take a past test, print out a bubble sheet, give yourself 4.5 hours, exam room conditions, only the materials you'll use on the test, don't allow any interruptions, and take it just like you would a real exam. And then score yourself, and then go back through and understand what you missed, okay? And that's a pretty good 12-week study plan. If you follow that and you ensure that you're understanding everything before you move on, I think you'll be pretty well ready for the exam. Here's the schedule that I recommend in the Customs Broker Geek course. Let me blow this up for you. It's basically the same thing I just explained to you, but it's structured to fit in with the course. And the course it's a self-study course, but we mix in some live help along the way, so you get the best of a structured course along with learning at your own pace. So I won't go through all of this, but just to give you an example, week 1, it's an introduction, it's preparing your materials and structuring your study time so that you can make the most of it. And then each module is set up the same way, where you'll have a reading in the textbook, and then you want to review the regulations and take notes on the section that we're covering. Then each module has lecture videos that you can watch and take notes, and it drives home the important points of the sections we're covering. And then there's 2 sets of homework questions. They're usually 20 questions each. And then once a week we hold a live Q&A call or webinar. I schedule for an hour, but we take as long as is needed to answer people's questions. And then Friday, I recommend taking your quiz. At the end of every module, we have a quiz, just like I described in the other schedule. The quiz is to make sure you understand before you move on to the next section. So that's how we structure our course. If you want to check out the course, head on over to customsbrokergeek.com and feel free. We actually have a free trial. So just remember, it's a big test. There's a lot of information to cover, and it can be overwhelming. But if you take it a small piece at a time, it's much more manageable and you can get through it. The important thing is just to make sure you have time and you're consistent. So that's why I'm telling you, don't worry about the total number of hours you're spending, but have a plan every day and set aside that time to make sure that you can chip away at all of this material. And when it's time for the exam, you'll be ready. Personally, I think 12 weeks is an ideal time frame. It's short enough that everything's fresh in your mind when you're getting ready to take the exam, but it's long enough that on a daily basis, it's not overwhelming to get everything done. Okay. Now, when I'm recording this video, we're about 9 weeks out from the April 2015 exam. So if you haven't started studying yet, you could be freaking out a little bit because I'm talking about 12 weeks, 12 weeks, 12 weeks. You don't have 12 weeks at this point. So take a deep breath. There's still time. And I'll give you a revised schedule. So if you don't have 12 weeks to prepare, I do suggest that you have at least 6 weeks. If you have less than 6 weeks, I think you're just setting yourself up for failure to try to squeeze everything in. You're going to stress yourself out. You're going to miss out on time with your family. It's going to be really difficult. And I think you'll be better off planning to take it the next time around, and give yourself at least 12 weeks to prepare. Follow the methods we're showing in these videos, or take a class like we offer, and it'll help you structure your time. So if you have 6 weeks and you still want to take it, I'll warn you, it's doable, but it's going to take a lot of effort and consistent effort on a daily basis. Just to put things in perspective, when I took the exam, I tried to have 12 weeks to study, but just like I'm sure all of you, you're very busy. You have a lot of things that require your attention, and I didn't have the time to put in. So I ended up logging probably 80 or 90 hours of study time. I mean, it was over at least a 6-week period. I spent a lot of time on the weekends. Is where I did most of my studying. So that's just to put in perspective, you don't necessarily need 150 hours or 180 hours to pass. Okay. So here's a 6-week schedule for you. Let me blow that up. So if you only have 6 weeks, here's how I would do it. Sunday, I would review the regulations for the section that you're going to study, take notes, and then as soon as you're done with that, jump into your first set of practice questions, okay? And check your answers and look up the correct answers and try to understand. Monday, do another set of practice questions, okay? And then Tuesday is your review of the information you started covering on Sunday to make sure that you understand all of it, all right? And then Wednesday, I would start the next section, review the regulations, take notes. Thursday, do a set of practice questions. Friday, review and make sure you understand everything. And then Saturday, I do another set of practice questions, review to make sure you understood all of the material from Wednesday. Okay, so really what you're doing is you're doubling up the 12-week plan. So what the 12-week plan, what you're doing Sunday through Friday, you're doing that. You're doubling up on it. You're doing a week's worth of studying in 3 to 4 days. Okay. And then the last 2 weeks, it's the same schedule during the week. Like, I really don't think it's feasible to put in more than 2 hours after working a full-time job and keeping up with your other commitments. So we're going to stick to 2 hours during the week. But Saturday and Sunday, and during your last 2 weeks, take your full-length practice exams. Again, give yourself exam room conditions, so 4.5 hours on the timer, no interruptions, no phone calls, no electronic devices, only the materials you'll be using on the exam. Even print out a bubble sheet. You want it to be just like you're going to have on the exam. And that's a good test to make sure that you're ready. And remember, if the test is coming up and you're not ready, you don't think you're going to be ready, you have, as long as you notify customs 30 days before the exam, you can get a refund and then just go take it. Refund of your exam fee, and then you can just take it the following offering. So that's a realistic 6-week schedule that if you follow that, you can be ready in time for the exam. So in closing here, remember, don't try to cram. The exam's just, it's too big. There's too much information. You can't cram. All right. Even if you're on an accelerated study schedule, you need time to rest. Okay. If you don't rest and recuperate, you're not going to be in the best mental state to take the exam when it comes around. Like I said, unless you're not currently working or you're on a sabbatical or something like that, I don't think it's feasible to study more than 2 hours per night after work. So I would just plan on that 2 hours and make the most of it. And then on the weekends, increase your study time if you're on an accelerated schedule to close that gap. The most important thing is to have a study plan, okay? Treat your study time like a part-time job. Go somewhere where there's no distractions. I recommend leaving the house. Go to the library, go to your office, go somewhere where there won't be any distractions. Set your timer and just make the most of that time. If you cut distractions out of your life, for a short period of time, you'll find you accomplish far more in 1 hour distraction free than you can 6 hours if you're interrupted by phone calls and things like that. So I highly recommend leaving the house. So that's it. That's how I recommend you structure your study time to make the most of it and to be thoroughly prepared for the exam. I hope you found that useful. That was part 3. This is a 6-part series, so we have some more good stuff coming up. So if you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and as soon as we post these, you'll get the next video. Also, stop by, check out our Facebook page. You can post questions on anything you have exam related, and we'll be happy to help you out, answer those questions. If you get stuck on if you're studying on your own, you get stuck on a question or a concept you don't understand, post it on our Facebook page and we'll help you out. All right, this was Nate with Customs Broker Geek. I'll talk to you next time.